Welcome to the Thrive Careers Podcast, the ultimate guide to turning career confusion into clarity and success. I am your host, Olajumoke Fatoki, a career strategist who's been where you are, navigating the highs, the lows, and pivots of building a fulfilling career. Whether you're stuck in a job that doesn't spark joy, you're feeling lost in your job search, or you're simply ready to level up and thrive, you have come to the right place. Through my own career journey, from uncertainty to reinvention, I have been able to uncover the secrets to building confidence, unlocking opportunities, and finding purpose in the workplace. And now, I'm here to share those game-changing strategies with you. Each episode is packed with actionable tips, expert advice, and inspiring stories to help you land your dream job, ace your goals, and design a career you truly love. So, grab a notebook or just hit play. It's time to embrace your potential, take charge, and thrive. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Thrive Careers Podcast, where we equip you with the tools and insights you need to build a thriving career. I am your host, Olajumoke Fatoki, and today's episode is all about future-proofing your career and tapping into the world of tech, one of the fastest growing industries right now. Joining me today is someone who needs no introduction, Pelumi Ogedengbe, a tech career mentor, product manager, and a passionate advocate for career growth within the digital space. Pelumi has helped countless professionals pivot into tech, break into competitive roles, and unlock exciting career opportunities. His hands-on experience and deep understanding of tech makes him the perfect guest to share insights on the skills and strategies you will need to stay ahead. Pelumi Ogedengbe, welcome to the Thrive Careers Podcast.
Thank you for having me on board. It's a true honor. I recognize the nations that people carry in them rather than just humble beginnings, right? So definitely honored to be here. And again, within our community, there is a ton of value that we need to be sharing to help those in our community, especially where a lot of people are now relocating abroad. They really need to see that they can get into roles that can help them live essentially their dream lives. And I'm so glad to be able to support in any way that I am able to.
Thank you so much. I think that's encouraging. So we just want to share with you and see how much information we're able to distill to people, and we can take the conversation from there. So for starters, I have an icebreaker question that I like to ask my guests. It's a kind of fun one to help us ease into the conversation. So let me know if you're ready and I'll shoot.
Me, I was born ready.
All right. So if your career journey were to be a movie, what would the title be and why?
I will call it a game of hoops and loops. The reason why is your career is what I've realized in my short period of time, because obviously I'm still young, Gen Z to the world. What I've learned is your career is really not a ladder, it is a lattice. So the difference is a lot of people kind of view your career as you go from one step to another step to another step to another step to another step. But really, it's really more like a lattice. It's more zigzaggy, right? So again, for me, earlier in my career, I wanted to be an investment banker. Let me like that was I was on the verge of going down the CPA and CFA route when I caught myself and said, if you go down this route, it will be the end of you. So for me, those were like the hoops and loops of like trying to really figure out what truly is the right fit for me, and going through the hoops and loops to figure it out. Because early days of working in spaces where I shouldn't have been working, my performance was pretty poor. Not because I couldn't do the job, but because I hated the job. I felt miserable I was in financial audits, analysis, where I was stuck on spreadsheets for long hours, minimal communication. And honestly, that's not who I am, right? So I wasn't working in line with my strengths. So I'd hit a couple of basketballs early on in my career. If you don't really get it, well, can't help you. But, basketballs early on, and, those were the hoops that I had to go over to eventually identify what my right path was. And then that's when I saw that hockey growth sort of in my career, right? So that's how I put it.
That's a beautiful way to start. I love it. And I'm tempted to ask you a follow-up question. I haven't gotten into the core of our conversation today, but just with this introduction that you gave, at what point did you realize that you were going down a route that you shouldn't be going down? What was that tipping point for you?
I'll give you the unfiltered truth. So I was working a job. At that time, I was doing a lot of, again, in finance. I was working in film finance. So what I was doing was a lot of auditing for films and helping them to recoup tax credits, right? So I was spending a lot of time really analyzing their expenses and where they could get tax breaks, essentially, right? For films in the US and films in Canada. And I hated it so much. Like, it was so bad that some days I'll be looking at those spreadsheets and it will be as if I'm in a Matrix movie. If you've seen the Matrix before, you see the way the numbers will be showing up and I'm moving like this. It was as if I was there. I was like, Pelumi, this one is going to be the end of you. So I remember that while I was working on that job, unfortunately, I was told that my services were no longer appreciated on that job. So for me, I shed a tear, but I knew that, I'm a believer, right? I knew personally that God was leading me somewhere, right? I knew. I got that confirmation right in that moment. Right before then, I had taken a course, right? Because before then, I'd been doing some research about myself to identify sort of what my core strengths as a person was, just taking that step back after speaking to a few mentors who helped me to see it that way, right? I took that step back to identify sort of what those core strengths were while I was on that job. So as I left that job, right, before then again, I completed that course. 6 weeks after, I got into the kind of role where I really should have been working, right? So it was at that point, the last stroke of that job was when I was able to identify myself, identify my core strengths as a person. My 3 C's: communication, curiosity, and creativity. For me, those are my sort of core strengths. I was able to map that into roles where it will allow those strengths to thrive. Once I was able to do that, it was a complete difference in my own personal career. So that was when I realized.
So for me, self-awareness, in the midst of everything you said, you came to that realization and you looked for help, that you took that bold step and were able to move on. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that's profound. So now we're moving into our tech conversations for today. Our first question is designed to help our listeners stay ahead of emerging technologies. Pelumi, what would you say are the top 3 tech trends that will shape the industry in 2025?
Great question. There are 2 hot trends, but they're also sort of intertwined in my view. AI, of course, right? Artificial intelligence is here. Like, who shouldn't think it is coming? No, it is here. That is one major trend, right? And as a byproduct of that, cybersecurity, right? Why? Because with artificial intelligence, just think about your ChatGPTs and all that. There is a need or a push for responsible AI and responsible use of AI, because with AI and all these large language models and all these different models that are out there, there is so much information now that is easier to get a hold of. Organizations are going to need a way to make sure that their security is fail-proof. Why? Because there's so much more information out there now with employees using AI tools, rightfully so, right? That there needs to be that protection. So I personally see AI, even in the products that I work on in my organization, like we have product teams just dedicated to AI. There's one dedicated to machine learning. There's another product team dedicated to conversational AI, right? Within my suite of the products as well, I also have things down the pipeline that is going to include large language models, right? So AI is a trend that is definitely here to stay. And anyone who isn't learning about AI or who isn't pro AI, there is a chance that honestly you will be left behind. You don't want to be that guy or that lady, right? No one is saying you have to be an expert in it, but know enough to not be dumb in the room. When these conversations are going on in your organization, know enough to be able to ask good questions. Know enough to be able to contribute. Know enough to be able to understand the conversation and probe, right? Curious, right? You don't lose anything. So that's what I think personally.
Amazing stuff. Two things. AI, and you said something really profound. So it's no longer that AI is coming, but that AI is here. And, the earlier we embrace it, the better for us. And cybersecurity, that's another dimension that you brought to it. I know that there's been a lot of buzz along those lines, or maybe because it's not my space, but I think that you touching on it now sort of expanded my mind. So that's another big thing that people can take advantage of, because there's going to be a need for people in that space, right?
If I may touch on that a little bit, yeah. I don't know. So one of the things that I try to do is, even on my socials, I follow a lot of different social media channels that are all constantly sharing things in the industry. Computers are coming. Jensen, CEO of NVIDIA, they've created another backend system that is going to power these things. Supercomputers are coming. In my cybersecurity days, I've worked, I can't mention company names, but I've worked with companies where there's already preparation for that. How can we ensure that? Because with supercomputers, essentially they can process things over 10 times quicker than your regular computer. So now let's extrapolate that into the hacker world. Hackers, that means they can hack passwords 10 times quicker if they get a hold of it, right? So it's again where cybersecurity comes in to say, how can we manage the potential threats of quantum computing, which is what supercomputers are, right? In this near future that is coming. That's why I think that cybersecurity definitely is another space that is not going anywhere anytime soon.
That's really a big one. And as you were talking, I remember something that we like to say in HR, trying to, and you also, touched on that, being proactive, not waiting until the change happens, making plans ahead. We usually say that AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI, people who are proactive, who have taken courses, who have taken learnings on how to manage this, I think we can rest it on the question number one. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll move into the second question for today, which is designed to provide clarity on what to prioritize for professional development in 2025 and beyond. What technical or soft skills will be most in demand for tech professionals?
Right. It's a fantastic question. One, I do still think they will, again, if you like, so one of the things that I also do is I'm keeping tabs a lot on emerging markets, right? So emerging tech industries. Let me backtrack. I'm a product guy, right? So true, I absolutely love products. I absolutely love just being curious about what different products do. And so the trend I'm noticing is a lot of products, either established products or new products, are constantly leveraging AI in its ability to process information faster, or in its ability to streamline the workflow within process that a system runs to get to a more accurate outcome and at a quicker time, right? So already that tells me having some form of knowledge, certifications in AI. So think about natural language processing, NLP, think about computer vision, think about large language models, think about actual machine learning and so on and so forth. I'm not an AI guy. I can't say that I am one in case I've, fluffed anything there. But, keeping tab of those things and learning about those different areas will be critical. right? So even I myself, I'm setting up courses that I want to take during the year to even improve my knowledge in that area. I'm favored. I have that exposure in my organization. I'm also married to someone who very well, she did a PhD AI related, right? So I've learned a lot from those experiences, but AI is something that folks need to be tending towards, because again, these emerging products and startup organizations are the ones that are going to bring about job opportunities in the near future. So because of that, if they are focusing on AI, it's better to set up yourself for success by also focusing on AI, right, in some way, shape, or form, so that again, their job opportunities can meet you at a place of preparation. That's number one. Second thing that I'm noticing by working with a Silicon Valley company, one of the trends that I'm noticing is the need for even non-technical talents to have some form of technicality. So I'll give you an example. One of the things that I'm noticing is, for my organization as an example, in sort of our core products, we have about 20. Do you want to know how many project managers we have? We don't have project managers within our product teams. We just have a manager that's helping to manage processes and at an execution level, right? Or kind of think about it as at a scaled agile level. So there's a framework we call SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. It's someone working to execute that so that we ensure that all product teams are working in line with similar processes. But within the 17 product teams, there isn't one project manager. The reason why is we have engineering managers instead, who are more technical and fulfill the role of the project manager, and as well are the people manager of the engineers on each of those product teams. So what that is telling me is, project managers, for example, it will be wise to be technical enough that at least you can unblock developers at certain times when they're stuck. Not necessarily by being able to write code, but be good enough to be able to take a look at the database, to understand logic, to know whether a particular logic should be built on a front end versus the back end, so that you can guide and know why. Why front end, why back end, why does it matter, right? That kind of information. And I know this is really granular stuff that maybe someone in tech might not really understand, but I hope this is helpful for folks who are already in it. It's not to scare them. I'm not saying go learn how to code, but be good enough to understand logic, good enough to understand where the logic should sit, front end versus back end, and why, so that you can provide that little nuance of technical guidance to engineers while they're feeling blocked on their job. Again, to kind of wrap it up, moving towards being a bit more technical, I think will keep you more valuable in the near future is what I'm experiencing.
Amazing. So hold that thought, and I'm going to come back because there's a second bit to that question, which is soft skills. I love the way you use examples, to elaborate the technical bits. But before you get to that, two things stood out from me from what you just explained. You have to be curious and you have to be open to learning. It's not that thing where you feel like, oh, this is my job, I'm just an HR professional and that's all I'm going to do. I don't care what anyone else is doing. You can't take such chances anymore. You have to know a little bit about something that someone in your circle is doing. It doesn't have to be your core competence, but you have an idea. I love the way you put it. Know enough to be able to make a contribution in the room or to add something. There's a way that makes you come across, and that's exactly what you need to build a thriving career, which is what we are doing. So do you want to get on the soft skill, or are they necessary in that space?
They are 100% necessary, because your influence in a room will always be determined by your ability to communicate effectively. You might know it all. You might have everything in your head, but if you're not able to communicate, be a voice that people are able to listen to, it would dim your ability to be as valuable as you need to be. Even as a developer, if you need to grow in your career as a developer, one of the things that senior developers have is the ability to communicate and work with other cross-functional teams like products and be able to be a voice of reason, right? In essence, what I'm saying is one of the key soft skills, communication, right? Communication will always be king. That's where I see it. Think about when you go for an interview. A lot of times, you might even know, the things that they're asking for. But if you're not able to communicate them effectively, it really impacts your ability to sell yourself and sell your value to the people listening to you. So communication, for me, that's a big deal because that ties, if you kind of think about it as, especially my line of work, it requires a lot of stakeholder alignment, right? I'm working with VPs and C-level executives that have big voices, big voices. How do I ensure that I can negotiate their minds towards a school of thought? Besides having the technical skills to show them the data, I need to be able to communicate and negotiate with them effectively. That's number one. The second thing that I see is ability to problem solve. It's not enough for you to just be a task merchant on your job. Any role, HR, operations, is not enough to be a task merchant. I recommend folks think about be that guy who's able to identify problems or areas of opportunity in whatever role you're working in and be able to come to the table with proposed solutions, right? That way, you would always be seen as valuable. When they're thinking of headcount cuts and so on and so forth, there'll be something extra about you that you bring to the table not everybody else does, right? So think past your job in terms of delivery. Anybody can finish tasks, right? But what you bring is that uniqueness to identify problems within processes that you're engaged in, right? I'm not saying you should think about launching SpaceX to moon, no. But think about the processes you're working in. Identify ways that can be streamlined. Speak, get buy-in, and that gives you opportunities to champion initiatives that are critical to advancing your career.
I loved your first statement. Your influence in the room is going to be dependent on how much you are able to communicate effectively. Because there's this thing about people who are highly skilled, especially in the tech space. You feel like I know my stuff. I can deliver on the job. Like, wake me up in the middle of the night and I know all the coding languages, all of those things that goes on around there. But if you're not able to communicate that at a higher level, I loved how you brought in the fact that the kind of people that you report to, stakeholder management and all of that comes with communication. Somebody else who doesn't even know the job but is able to communicate better is going to have that ears, and if you're not careful, you're just going to be pushed to the back. So yes, be good at your stuff, own it, but also pay attention to communication and also problem solving. You couldn't have said it any better. That was really so good. So the third question, we've sort of touched on it, and I think it also ties into what we have just finished discussing, and that is how can professionals future-proof their careers against automation and AI disruption?
So again, sort of like tagging on to all what we've been saying before, a lot is going to be about your ability to stay relevant. Relevance in terms of understanding what is coming with artificial intelligence and more. As someone who's looking to stay relevant, what would I recommend? Courses, right? Take courses. If you don't have the budget to spend a fortune, Udemy, Coursera, Google has some really cool courses. LinkedIn Learning has some really, really great courses, right? So certifications, courses, whatever training program that can help just advance your knowledge, I will be targeting that, number one. Secondly, that I'll be, to fill-proof your future is really engaging with communities. It's still centered around learning. But you see, when there is a conference in your industry that you're able to attend those, right? One, you do learn from those sessions. Second of all, you network. And that's so important. And I'm going to use the shade. Your network is your net worth. It really, really matters because it really helps in bringing about other opportunities for you in the future. It really shouldn't be when you need something that you're just networking. Your network at that point in time should be able to assist you when you need something, right? So, it's not on my mind staying relevant by learning, right? In whatever way you can. Courses, programs, bootcamp courses, whatever the case may be. Networking to understand what is going on in industries, to build relationships that I think beneficial to you in the future are the two things that I'll be looking at, personally to make sure that I'm staying relevant.
Interesting. I want us to push a little bit further, on that, because I feel like one of the words that has been pushed around a lot and people don't exactly know how to go about it is this word that you have just used, networking. We say people should attend industry events, connect with people. But trust me, Pelumi, a lot of people still don't know how to make those connections happen. And it defeats the purpose of going into those gatherings in the first place. And this was my reality some years ago. I've heard so much about attend conferences, and I'll just go and I'll just be there. Some people, I'm just looking at them. I've seen them on LinkedIn, those big names, and I'm just wondering, how do I even begin to, speak to these people? So how do people break those barriers to ensure that networking works for them?
Yeah, for sure. So I feel like there's two different categories. If you're naturally a people person, some of these things might come naturally to you to build rapport easily with strangers. But for the vast majority of people, even when they're people persons, networking can still feel awkward. So the first thing is preparation. Actually, prepare. Don't expect it to just come naturally. So going into networking sessions, understanding who's going to be there, right? Or at least what kind of people are going to be there. Understanding, okay, do I develop some early icebreaker questions, right? 3, how do I ask them about them? Allow them to speak. When you allow someone else to speak, they feel comfortable, right? So knowing what those questions are that you want to ask them about what they do is critical before you start to yap about yourself. So again, all of that comes into preparation, right? Prepare before you go to those networking events. Also, have it in mind that your first couple of chats might still be awkward, and that is fine. Networking is one of those things where you learn on the job. The more you do it, the better you get at it. If you're waiting to the point where miraculously somehow you become great at networking, it's not really going to happen without actually trying it. It won't happen by talking to yourself in the room. You actually have to go out there and give it a try. But the key to de-risking the potential failure of networking is prepare beforehand, have some handy questions that you walked through, right? That you want to throw at them. And again, it's not necessarily that you have to run through a list of questions. They can just be a guide. And as the conversation goes and starts to flow, other questions will start to flow that will be valuable and still reach you at that point of connection. After you've networked, you need to follow up. Because again, this is it. People are like, for me now, if you've met me before, let's say at one event 2 years ago, you did not follow up and you miss me 2 years after, you expect that I will remember you. I will not. Do you understand? Like, if we haven't maintained communication in one way or the other, even if it is by, send me a follow-up. Hey, it was really nice meeting you at this event today. It was really interesting to learn about this, and this, and this that you guys do at your organization. That was very inspiring for me. I'll make sure to keep in touch. That's it. Now, especially if it's on things like LinkedIn, let's say that person posts, like it, comment on it. You're gradually staying relevant in that person's mind. And again, you never know. Now in the future, if that person is a director or senior director or something, say hiring for a role, it becomes a little bit easier to pitch them and say, Mr. X, I saw this role that you posted. I think, I could be a good fit. And then that could really help. That's the way I would go about networking effectively.
I love how you brought that to light and very easy to understand. You touched on, the critical aspects. So, for instance, you attend a networking event, and one of the things that I used to do back then, I'll go on LinkedIn to write about that event, tag those people that I have met in that gathering. Sometimes it moves them to action and it improves what you were also trying to talk about, top of mind awareness. Unlike when you just do a one-off and walk away. And I also wanted to talk about the certifications that you had mentioned. And I feel like we're already getting into question 4, and it's okay. I love the flow. What I wanted to add on that is don't just acquire certifications for the purpose of acquiring them. In today's world, everything is about visibility. People need to know that you have those certifications. It's good to have it on your resume, but there are platforms where you can also share those things, especially LinkedIn, where a lot of recruiters go on to search for job candidates. So instead of just making it sit in your resume, you can shine a bit more light, on the fact that you have that certification and you're ready, to work in that line. So still speaking of certifications, it's 2025 and boy, many certifications as you can, because that's one of the ways, in addition to all that we've said, to stay relevant. So are there specifics, especially in your space, that you would recommend for people, to go for?
That's a great question. In the product space specifically, as you're taking certifications, again, to your point earlier, it's not just about immersing any certification you can find. Make sure that certifications that are valuable to your learning as well, right? One of the things that I always do every year is I try to identify where I have a skill gap between where I am and where I am going. How do I sometimes recognize it? One, through my work, through others in the role I'm trying to get into by analyzing what skills they possess that perhaps I'm lacking. Now I go look in that area of skill, what certifications are able to help me with the level of knowledge that I need, right? Be proficient in that area. So the way I always see it is, for the most part, certifications won't get you the job. They make you visible to give you an opportunity to have an interview, right? For many jobs, somebody will just say, you have a PMP, take project management role, right? It's not enough. You actually need to be able to defend and speak to the value of someone that has a PMP during an interview, right? So specifically in product space, I will be looking at certifications like, if I'm, recommended to people, one, take a professional Scrum product owner certification. There are 3 levels, right? There's level 1, there's level 2, and I believe level 3 now. In the past, there used to be just 2 levels. Look at doing that. Also, I would like to recommend checking out Pragmatic Institute. They have a really robust product training, right? That is very, very valuable in the product space, right? So they have a very robust product certification that is very valuable. And not just valuable, but extremely impactful. It gives you so much knowledge about product strategy, design, implementation, definition, that is so critical to your product career. So that's for the product space. Again, that's Professional Scrum Product Owner, PSPO, right? 1, 2, 3, go up the ladder as you see fit. And again, the product space, Pragmatic Institute, they also have 3 levels. If you're looking at the project management space, PMP will always be relevant. So the PMP certification, always relevant. Also, things around Scrum. So I'll be looking at saying take certification courses in like the Certified Scrum Agile Framework. There's a certification specific to that. I will look at doing that. Why? Because organizations have multiple Scrum teams, and now they need to scale their agile practices across the Scrum teams. Hence the need for the SAFE certification and SAFE experts. And obviously look at your Certified Scrum Master certification. Of course, if you're in business analysis, I will be looking at doing like a CBAP or even some of those product certifications, CBAP. And I think across all those roles, look at getting whatever certification or training in like data analysis. That makes you more valuable in any of those roles. And again, depending on your industry, right, or where you're working in, there might be other certifications that will be valuable. So for example, you might be a BA working in cybersecurity space. Are there certifications that you can look into? Maybe not a CISSP, which is sort of a top certification, but are there other certifications like a CompTIA Plus and so on and so forth that you can look into that are a little bit more on the easier side that you can look into, but yet make you more valuable within that cybersecurity space, even as a business analyst in that industry?
I was lost for a tiny bit because, of course, that is your space, and I was just listening. I'm sure that people who are into this can connect with the certifications that you mentioned. It was good that you gave us their names and even some institutes that people can go to find some of these things. So that was really helpful. Thank you. So how can professionals create a personal roadmap for growth within the tech industry?
I'll kind of answer that question in two ways. First, professionals who are already in it, who are already in tech, I would always be looking at benchmarking. Thinking about where you're at, identifying where you want to be in or where you want to grow to. Within where you want to grow to, people who are there, what do they have that I don't have, right? What kind of skills do they possess that I don't possess, right? I would target that specifically and my learning and growth specifically in that. So for example, let's say you get into more senior leadership, right? What do senior leaders possess that you don't possess? And how can I gain those skills to make sure that I am up to par with the industry standard? That's what I personally would recommend for people who are already within the space. People who are trying to get into the space, my first recommendation, make sure you do that research of what are the right roles for me based on my areas of strength, right? I know there's this, while I know that you are smart, while I know that you can achieve most things, right? If you put your mind into it, it is a longer journey to be trying to convert something that is a weakness or not an area of strength into an area of strength. The friction is a lot more. If you're walking in line with your area of strength, the journey is much smoother, right? If you get what I mean. So that's why I encourage folks to, before you go and start taking AWS, it's DevOps now. No, they said it's cybersecurity. Before all of that, spend some time to truly identify, to really reflect on yourself and identify what your strengths are. Then do that exercise of mapping those strengths to roles that allows those strengths to shine, or to roles that leverage those strengths, right? That once you identify those roles, then you can create your learning path, right? Based on what is needed to achieve those roles. Of course, you can reach out to career coaches like myself, like Jumoke, right? And other people to help you with some of that hand-holding. Oh, this is what you need. Or network with people who work in the space already. Identify, okay, Mr. X, you work in this space. I'm trying to get into this space because I've done this mapping. What are the top 3 key things that I need to unblock myself and set myself up for success to get a foot into the door? I will be looking at doing that to then help you create that learning path. Because once you have that, that's your learning path, right? To then help you break into the right role. And what that does for you is it increases the chances that one, you would enjoy the job, and two, it increases the chances that you keep the job.
Potential. Thank you so much. I was still brooding on one of the points that you made about playing to your strengths. It cannot be overemphasized. It's a big game changer. I just casted my mind back to the first time that I came across that concept, and it was in Chesneya's book. Focusing on your area of strength and getting help in your area of weakness. Some people claim to be all-rounder, yes, but there are areas that, you are sharper, you know that it's your thing, you get. And of course, getting that point also is another process entirely, being able to identify your strengths, and there are what your key strengths are. You can leverage people around you. There are online tools that can also help you to uncover that. But basically, knowing where your area of strength is, because that's where you would shine, like Pelumi rightly said, and focusing on that, building on it. But before we go, these last 3 rapid questions, are you ready? Rapid fire, 1 word, sentence. Just give us as it comes. So if you had to learn 1 new tech skill this year, what would it be?
Prompt engineering. Yes. And for me, I see a future where, because again, there are AI models now that are building that will be able to build entire systems, right? But the way I see it is, to build the system, it's still heavily going to be reliant on the requirements for the system. Prompt engineering is what is going to define those requirements. Whenever, again, it might not necessarily be as close, because not all organizations have the kind of budget for that, but that would always be valuable with this future of AI. So that's what I would say.
Now I appreciate the fact that you took your time to bring that out, because that was profound. You went for big fish, for lack of a better word. All right, so what's the most underrated skill that every tech professional should have? Right. Cannot be overemphasized. Communication. All right. So name a trend you believe is overhyped right now.
Personally, I just think crypto is overhyped. I mean, maybe that might just be me, that I haven't looked enough into it, but I'm not a firm believer at this point in time in crypto. Again, when facts change, opinions change, but at this point in time, I'm not a firm believer in crypto, and that's one overhyped trend that I feel.
I love the fluidity. That's the beauty of life. The fact that things evolve and things can change. But now, right this minute at 7:18 p.m. EST, you believe that the overhyped, trend is crypto. All right. Thank you so much, Pelumi. So, what would be your key takeaways and your final advice for our audience?
The advice and key takeaway will differ depending on the people, right?
Put it in buckets.
So yes, I put it in the buckets. First things first, again, guys, AI is here, right? You're not required. I don't think you should need to be an expert in AI, but know enough to be able to contribute in the room, right? Number 2 is the industry has been tough, job market generally, in the past 1 year. But again, there are signs that is going to change in 2025. So if you're looking to get into tech, or, so that you can be working in a job that perhaps you're happier in, you're better paid in, and so on and so forth, don't give up on it. It can still happen for you. Be persistent and be strategic, right? Strategic on your strengths, and walking the path to finding the right role for yourself and taking the right learnings to ensure that you bridge the skill gap that might exist. Definitely stay out there. I recognize that there've been a lot of folks that have been out of job in the past 1 year. Don't give up. Please don't give up. Don't feel like you need to settle, right? Of course, if you have bills to pay off, figure that out. Don't give up. Don't settle. Even if you have to do something in the meantime, but don't give up on that dream. Or you want to be a business analyst, you want to be a project management, you want to be in product management. don't give up on it. It might be a little bit more challenging, but those that stick it out will still reap the biggest fruit of it. So don't give up. Keep pushing. Keep learning. It will happen.
Do not give up. I mean, that can be overemphasized. And also be strategic. Be strategic. I mean, let me not overflow that. That's just it. Be strategic and do not give up on your dream. If you have to, do something on the side, survival, especially for those, that are here, there are bills to pay, there are things to please do, but be strategic. Know how to, walk your way back to your desired place, because it is possible. And Pelumi here has been able to prove that to us. And, we can't wait to hear your success story. Pelumi, so where can our listeners find you? Where can they connect with you? LinkedIn? Do you have a website?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, Pelumi Ogedengbe. Instagram, the same, Pelumi Ogedengbe. Those are sort of my current two most active platforms at the moment. Yeah, I mean, once you connect, I also did recently start a newsletter where I am helping folks with just resources, templates, networking templates like we spoke about today, and just giving a lot of free resources away to support people as much as possible. So once you connect to me on LinkedIn, if you check the link in my bio, you'd always see a link there, or on my Instagram, on my link tree, a link to resources that will connect you to my newsletter, which I use as an avenue to share a lot of free resources, free advice, things to keep you going, right? Tips, tricks here and there to help you ensure that, we can bring to realization this future tech career that obviously you're gunning for, which is sort of my own focus.
I'm so excited about this edition. I have learned a lot myself just listening to you, and I'm glad that our listeners would have practical strategies, things that they can begin to implement, almost immediately.
Thank you very much for having me as well. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.
And that's it for today's episode of Thrive Careers Podcast. I am Olajumoke Fatoki, reminding you that no matter where you are in your career, you have the power to rewrite your story. If you've enjoyed today's insights, do not forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who's ready to thrive. If you have questions or topics you would like for me to cover, let's connect. I would love to hear from you. Remember, clarity creates confidence, and confidence leads to success. And until I come your way again next time, stay inspired and keep thriving.